No, I mean, we.
All our regularly scheduled meeting orders. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first thing is our approval of minutes from our last regular meeting on March 11th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion by Carrie, second by Tim, all in favor? I'm gonna save the wheel tax to the end because I think that's gonna be our most discussed topic. We've got a redevelopment board application, Lawrence Chase. Open that up for discussion if anybody wants to see it.
I looked at it on
Did you
email.
see it?
She didn't see it.
No, I saw it. On the email.
I looked at it on email.
I already started.
Yep, I saw it.
So just make a motion to approving.
I'll make a motion, Scott. I second.
Patty, motion to accept, Carrie second. All in favor? Unanimous. And then I put on here a approval of the AFR that Gail sent us, but discussing with one meeting, I don't think we need to actually approve that if somebody thinks differently.
I basically have to have the fact that you guys looked at it and sign off on it. This right here. State Board of Accounts actually asked me for it today.
You need us to sign that.
One of you can sign off on it.
I'll
So,
sign it after the meeting.
yeah, I can,
That works.
Yeah.
And then we had a additional appropriation come in about an hour ago from Ryan Everman. We can table this if you guys want to, since it is last minute, but I don't think there's an issue with it. The commissioners approved them moving $50,000 from their 1151 into a specific line item 4411 for some equipment that he's got ordered.
They're moving their own money from one
I
line to
haven't
another.
seen it.
Don't you gotta have that written
Yeah.
down.
I haven't
I
seen
think
it.
you gotta table this. You can't just vote it.
I'm not saying that they didn't.
Just be safe.
Works with me. And the only other thing we've got is wheel tax.
Board reports, but
Well,
I didn't have any recycling board didn't meet till May.
next month.
I hadn't even had a meeting. Only for Trudeau. He's just trying to write some grants and schedule training, really.
So, I have not had a meeting with fire chiefs. Well, let's get into a wheel tax discussion. Got the highway department here, if you guys would like to speak on this.
So, basically, the wheel tax, there's a minimum and a maximum we can do. Most counties are pushing to put in a wheel tax. We don't know for sure, but we think eventually the community crossing grants will go to the wayside, and that's where the wheel tax will help us keep close to that $1 million a year. We apply for grants through community crossing. Sometimes it's, depending on projects we're doing, it could be 500,000 to $1 million each year that we ask for. And without that, we don't have blacktop, we don't have bridges, so I think the wheel tax will help subsidize that if CC&G goes to the wayside.
At this time, it's still there, correct?
Yeah, but it changed last year, so there was always 300 million that all the counties and towns could apply for. They dropped that to 100 million last year, so now everybody's competing for 100 million. They gave 50 million of it straight to Marion County. I think there was 20 million they gave to the railway. And if it, for now, if it stays close to 300 million in that fund each year, there could be 130, maybe some, this year they're estimating, what was AIC, Jim? About 65,000 or 65 million. So the, whatever's left over, once they do the 100 million for grant money and 50 to Marion County, 20 million to the railway, there will be what they call a lane mile match. So if we have our wheel tax in place, we'll get a percentage of whatever money's left over as of now.
And you said before, if we don't have, we can't get any of it.
No, we can't get any of it. Now, in the future, you may have to have a wheel tax to even be able to apply for community crossings. I don't know that that's the case right now.
Latest I have is that that money is still there, still get it without the wheel tax. But like
Okay,
I said,
yeah, I think
that
it
may
is.
change.
Yeah, it is right now, but they've talked about in the future that to force the county's hand, you may have to have it to get it. But as of now, yes, it is there. But basically, we're down to 100 million we can draw from, you know, as compared to the 300 million we used to be able to draw from. But back to the lane mileage match, we'll get a certain percentage of that extra leftover money just by having the wheel tax in place. Now, if we put the wheel tax in place and let's say they give us 200, 300,000 a year for the match and we apply for $1 million grant, they'll subtract what they're giving us and then give us the rest, you know, that we're asking for.
Dusty, have you guys had a conversation with the commissioners as to what their recommendation is? I mean, are they looking for the $80 or they want to have their own number? What do you guys think?
I think they're leaning towards the max, but I don't want to speak, you know, for them.
So you guys haven't talked with the commissioners about
We
that?
have, yes. And
They didn't, in discussion, they didn't say,
yeah, I talked to them individually, so we didn't really have a meeting discussion, you know, on what their true thoughts was in the meeting, but. And here's what I think on the max and the minimum. So if we put in a max, which you all have the sheets there, we'll roughly get around 600,000 a year. If we get a lane mileage match, nobody really knows what that's going to be, but if it's 200,000 to 300,000, that's going to be the closest we can get to that $1 million a year if community crossings ever fails. And for the past, I don't know, 12 years or so, we've been relying on community crossings to get us blacktop and bridges. And most bridges we put in, you know, depending on the size of it, it can be anywhere from 600,000 to $1.5 million a bridge. So,
and you get charged the taxpayer so that everybody understands, I mean, we gotta have a public meeting once we decide what we're gonna do. We gotta have a public meeting. So just so that I understand where we're going here, if we went $80, I believe is the max, correct?
yeah, so
I'm sorry?
$50.
it's 50 on the wheel tax and it's 80 on the excise tax.
Yeah.
The excise tax is for the cars, that's $50.
Right.
The wheel tax is $40.
40.
I don't have 80 for anything.
I thought it was 80 on this.
Well, there's been so many things go around, it's hard to keep up with, but we would have to check for sure on the, but I thought one of them.
This one's got 50 on the excise and 40 on the wheel.
Yeah,
maximum.
I don't remember seeing 80
Oh,
anywhere, but I could be wrong.
but there's been so many things thrown around too, because there's also legislation going on now that they could up the heavier tax up to $250,
Yeah.
you know, per vehicle. But
That's
that's
what I
all-
was seeing.
That's all still,
And that's all collected off of your licensing at the BMV, right?
yeah, your registrations.
Okay.
And the way it's gonna work, so you have a wheel tax, which is gonna go to, the heavier equipment, right?
Yes.
So anything over 11,000 pounds, trucks, trailers, that will be your wheel tax. And for the vehicles, motorcycles, small trailers, anything under 11,000 pound, that'll be your excise tax, but they're basically one and the same.
Dusty, it says in this handout we've got, it says that they're gonna use the local road and street formula as far as distributing it. But it's not gonna go in that fund. I'm sure it'll have its own fund.
It will
Actually,
have
might even
its-
have two.
It will have its own fund, yes.
Yeah, it might even be two of them since there's two taxes, but you can spend it in 1176. You can spend it in local road and street, right?
Yeah, well, you can spend it directly out of its own fund it's gonna be in.
But for any of those things that you typically spend
Yeah,
right now.
it can
out
go
of the
for
others.
construction, maintenance.
What about the restricted fund? Are you allowed to
Yeah,
use
it can be spent for that as
It-
well.
It can't go into 1173 or 76. It
No.
has
No,
to
no,
stay.
it'll stay in its own.
It stays in
fund.
its own fund, but you can spend it on the
You can spend
items that
It's
you're.
just like you do for 76 and 73, you can spend it that same way.
And I'm assuming this is gonna be like any other where I assume it'd be council can change those rates probably once a year, I'm guessing. If it needs to go up or down or.
That I'm not sure about. I think you can, but I'm not 100%
The
sure.
amount.
Oh, on the amount that you charge on the tax?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
every
I
year,
would imagine you can, because, you can,
be like any other
you
tax.
can rescind the tax, you can get rid of it
Yeah.
completely, so I imagine you can vote to
The
change it.
counties I've talked to that have had it, that tried to put it up where they need the funds, they've got a huge blockage. They can't, they're having a hell of a time going up with it.
That's what I've heard as well. Like they'll put in, a minimum or maybe a third of what they think. And then when they realize it's not enough, they'll come back and try to up it and they can't hardly get it passed.
Well, I went back and forth on it. I can see that, but I also have a hard time. It would be, I went back and looked, the local road and street and the highway and the restricted funds at the budget season last year. If you add all them together, it's 422,000 that we were over budget. So to tax more than we need, I'd have a little bit of trouble explaining why that would be. I know in the future we could lose those other funds,
Yeah.
but right now we don't, so I would have trouble taxing more than what we think we need.
But there's projects that you don't do because the
Oh,
funds
yeah,
aren't there.
yeah.
And that's where I'm kind of at.
You're bringing up a good point, because this is something I looked at when you say taxing more than what we need. There's a group here in our county we don't tax, yet there's an ordinance that says we should be taxing them. And I want to make sure, now, I'm gonna say this too, because we're on a recording session. If you're using our roads, it's everybody. Everybody. We have an ordinance in this county that says every buggy is supposed to be licensed. So if we got a sheriff that doesn't hold that ordinance. Now we're talking about wheel ordinance, where everybody's gonna get taxed. Well, if you don't enforce the ordinance on Amish for their licensing of the buggy, they're driving free, the rest of us are paying.
Agreed.
So I think a hand vote before we get the public in here telling us, you guys don't enforce crap bags behind them, you don't enforce your own ordinances for licenses on it. I want to hear that I'm 100%. If you're using our roads, everybody gets taxed.
Yep.
And that means we need a sheriff that's gonna hold the Amish accountable to license their buggies so we can get wheel tax on everybody.
Yep.
Everybody.
Yeah, I would think anything that could be registered should be paying wheel tax.
But what they pay, what the Amish do pay, that comes through my office, and that's just a fee that the commissioners had set up.
And they
So
can change
I
it.
don't know.
You're right, they can change it.
Yeah,
It'd be good to have a lawyer here to explain it to us.
Taxed, I don't know that that tax couldn't run through my office, is what
Well,
I'm,
so be-
you know what I mean? I couldn't
If,
collect
but
that.
you can't be in charge, you can collect it, but somebody's gotta enforce it. Problem
Right,
is,
but
not
I'm just
everybody comes in and
saying-
pays you.
You could up the plate fee, I guess, right
You
now
could
it's
do it the same as you
$25.
would any other, like a
Sure.
car, you could do it the same as a car.
But again, nobody
Less than
enforces
a
it. You get some that pay
I get
it,
it.
but you get the largest majority that don't. So you need somebody's gonna enforce this.
So they don't run their plates through the BMV.
No, we get stickers from the state.
Yeah.
One county gets them and disperses them. I mean, we've collected probably $300 this year.
Well, there's a lot more
Yes,
buggies on the road than $300.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's more than, if you look at last year,
I think
that's,
we're all in agreement.
I think that's more than what we
We
collected
can't
last
do much
year.
about it, so.
Too much about what?
We can't enforce that. all
We
agree.
can, there's an ordinance that says that.
We can't.
Yeah,
Council.
that's my point. If you're gonna hold a public meeting, and that's my point here is, if we're gonna hold a public meeting, and we're gonna put a wheel tax on the public, then we gotta have another conversation about that's everybody. You have an ordinance in place. The problem, Scott, is it's not enforced by our law enforcement here.
I hear you.
So we need the law enforcement to say, we're gonna enforce it. We need the county commissioners to say, if you're gonna be on our road, we're gonna do that.
I mean-
We have to have it all done by September if we want it to go into effect
Yeah.
next year.
Couldn't you,
We can go ahead and like have our attorney start drafting stuff and get it to the point where we can move it along.
Yeah, I think
we
we
should.
need to get on it, because
As
if
far
we
as-
delay
as
it
far
again,
as-
we're,
What I want to see from us as a body tonight is, do we want to do this? And if so, how much? And then let's go ahead and get the wheels rolling.
I will throw my hand up
Process.
that we do.
If
So
you're looking
I'm
for a
okay.
motion, are you looking for a motion to move us forward?
Yes, and with at
To
least
have the attorney,
an amount of, how much? Do we want to move forward and how much?
I would make a motion that we do move forward with the wheel tax, and we do the maximum to start out, so we can see kind of what it does, and then we can go down from there. If we need to.
Can I add,
We should-
add to the motion that the lawyer
Yes,
creates?
and that the lawyer would create the draft.
should we just vote on that? Just vote having the lawyer move to the next step?
Yeah,
But I think we have to tell the lawyer for him to move to the
Yeah,
next step, is
so-
that we want the maximum.
Yeah, he'll have to write an ordinance,
Yeah.
so he'll need a
Yeah.
guideline of what
Right.
you want the ordinance to be.
and that we want it for all vehicles.
Everybody that's supposed to have a license.
Yeah, it'll have to be, and it also will have to be passed.
they don't have a
It's-
license.
I'm telling you, there's an ordinance in this county
No,
that
I
says if
understand
you
that.
ride your buggy, you're supposed to have that tag.
What
But
I'm
they don't
telling
have to
you
have
is,
a license.
they don't
to
have a
drive.
license.
You could
Yeah.
say, okay,
Then the
That's
I
tax,
don't
what
call
I'm
it a
saying,
license,
that's
I
what-
call it a permit. But you don't collect on the permit, but you can add to the wheel license.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Wheel
something
tax,
you
they
guys
try.
do that to that amount.
so that's the motion that I have out there.
I'll second that.
Read that back.
A motion that we as a county have the attorney draft up, that we do want to move forward with the wheel tax
And
at
that's.
the maximum amount for right now. And that it includes all vehicles using the highways and roads in Switzerland County.
I'd say all vehicles.
All vehicles, buggies, trailers.
Golf carts.
And can we also put it for both taxes, wheel and excise? We have to pass. it.
Yeah, wheel and excise tax.
All right, Kim made a motion to have our attorney draft the wheel and excise tax at the maximum rate for all vehicles in the county. I got a second
I'll second.
from Matt.
I mean, are you doing discussion? Did you already take a second?
Well, I think the time for discussion will be before the motion.
Okay.
Is that cool?
I was just gonna say that I feel like some of the language is already written in here, like, you know, you have to do both. You can't do one or the other.
Yeah,
And I feel like probably the language within the tax itself is probably, the state already did it. I mean, I don't know that we can change much of that.
No, and
Would be my guess. Garrett
Garrett
would,
has that, I believe.
yeah, Garrett would say for sure, but I don't,
yeah. He also sent you all his memorandum of it that he
Yeah.
Mhm.
wrote out as well.
Just that we move forward with the maximum amounts for Switzerland County for.
And I think by asking for the maximum, that pretty much the commissioners aren't gonna have a problem with that. I guess if we would have said we want lesser than the maximum, they might have said, we'd like to have a voice in this.
Yeah,
Doing the max makes sense. So we
And the
don't have to have that
reason,
meeting.
and the reason I am saying that, and I know the motion was seconded, is just because I know that highway department, they keep all the roads and everything as best as they can, but there are a lot of projects for this county that we could do if we had that extra money as well.
Mhm.
You know, that they just don't ask for or do. And I'd like to see the county roads and everything the best they can be.
I'm personally not dead set on it being a max rate, but I mean, I think for our purposes at this time, it's fine to move forward.
I mean, to start out is what I'm
I
saying,
think
because I
we
think
might
we're
want to look
less
at it a
we're
little closer,
screwed.
perhaps not.
And even if you want to look at like the cost for minimum, I mean, you're $80-some thousand. Just in 1 year's time, we got a pothole machine that runs around patching. We buy bags of cold patch. We figured the other day with the oil, the rocks, the cold patch, all the material we use, you're roughly about $80-some thousand, closer to 90 a year, just in patching.
Yeah.
So even if you put in like a minimum, I mean, you're barely gonna cover just patching. Something else to think about.
All right, nobody has anything else? Vote, all in favor of the motion? Unanimous.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And Dusty, I still want you to call 156 about where they cut in all the culverts and it bounces you out of the truck.
You can probably hit through better than I can.
Patty agrees. You know which ones I'm talking about
Yes,
too.
I do.
Well, I think once they get all that construction done, they'll probably come through and repave all that.
I hope so.
don't know when that'll be, but
As long as they don't close the road, I'm okay.
Right,
Can't get anywhere now.
you can't get to Rising Sun anymore.
Can't get to Aaron Road either,
Yeah.
from my house.
That's all we got on the agenda.
Is there a point in time where you're gonna look at the hospitality, you're gonna bring up hospitality tax, so we can get that underway too?
Because we never did finalize on the in-tax.
The innkeeper tax?
Yep.
We had decided not to move forward with that.
We did?
When?
When did we do that?
I didn't vote on not doing it.
We didn't even
It never came to.
came to vote.
Never came to-
There's so many,
So it's still out there, we didn't vote not to do it, we just haven't taken the vote.
Right.
Okay, we need a vote, somebody make a motion, I think we ought to have a discussion, we'll get it on the agenda, and look at the hospitality tax.
We didn't want to move forward with it.
Gail, when you looked at everything and you were looking at who was paying in-tax, because I had asked, I mean, I know Belterra was on there, and probably Fairway Inn, but do we, is there an Excel sheet or something that
We
you
just
have?
have locally who comes into the courthouse and pays. I have no idea who pays at the state. We just get that from the state comptroller.
But you don't get a report from the state as far as who, you just get a dollar amount?
Can you request a report from the state?
Yeah, maybe.
Please do, because I really like to see, because right now, campgrounds, none of them are doing anything as far as in-tax for people staying less than 30 days. That could be a huge coup, you know, for the county as far as dollars in the general fund.
That doesn't go to the general fund, correct?
No, it goes all back to tourism.
Well, to tourism, to
That's why we didn't move forward with it. because it
I thought only the 4% or 5% that's
the
in tourism,
5%
but we get
currently,
the,
the
we would
extra
be, we would
3%.
collect the other additional 3, right?
we
I
don't
think
see
it
it.
all goes.
It all goes to.
It all goes to tourism.
Not the way that it was written, because the increase, I believe, the extra, if we did go to 8, that 3% can then be used towards general fund.
No.
I'm almost
That's the way
positive
I,
that's how
that's
it's
the way I
presented
understood.
to us.
Let's-
Tourism-
let's have
tourism
Garrett look
wouldn't-
at that.
I mean, what would be the reason tourism would push it? Because they're not getting any money.
Tourism isn't pushing it. I think, let's have, well, he wanted
He
everything for
wanted
his
to do,
project,
he
yeah.
wanted it to do
I
for the
agree.
stage and for everything
Yeah.
else. But I'm almost positive when Garrett or whoever went over the law with us, that 3% could be used for other projects outside specific tourism.
I'd like to just recommend
Email
that Garrett looks at it.
Email Garrett and he'll answer you.
Yeah.
We don't see $1.
Are you gonna email Garrett? I can email him if you'll do
Either
it.
way, I mean, I can.
Okay,
Just
you
to,
do that, that'd be great.
and copy us in on.
I mean, I'll just to speak on where we landed on that. I mean, he didn't even have the okay from the Army Corps of Engineers yet. I mean, there's so many things. We're at the very end of the line.
Well, I mean, I knew.
Council
he
is, and
did.
they hadn't got the okay from anybody really.
We were entertaining it
Yes.
if they could give us more concrete idea on what they were gonna build, if they could build it, and it didn't.
Yeah, I
We
mean, I
didn't
was,
get any assurances.
I was fully aware of that.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Did you want to? Comment?
I don't think we have anything, but if anybody from the public wants to speak.
I'll motion for adjournment.
Cam,
Todd seconded.
Todd seconded, all in favor?
something screwy in there. But there was at least, there was either 3 or 4 items that the additional tax could be used